Wow.
That is the people's champion, the most electrifying man in entertainment.
Oh, I think he's carved out a great life and a great career. I mean,
Yeah,
no question.
Thankfully did not choose the NFL. He would have probably failed at that one.
You know what? You pick what you can do. Okay.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I agree.
So,
100%.
All right, Beaver Stadium.
Yeah.
There are several plays that you can make on Beaver Stadium. So let's let's discuss the simple one. Keep pouring money into it, fix it, keep it where it's operational. You can do that. In other words, like an accelerated maintenance program. You can do that. There's no question about that. And that would probably have a price tag a little bit better than $200 million. Okay. That's one. And that is something that is, would be something you'd put on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably, again, I would guess, let's do this. It would be, I think, between $200 and $300 million to do it. With
no guarantee it's going to work.
Oh, it can work.
It can work, but it's not going to have as much of an effect.
It can work, but it's not going to. It's going to give you the same rate of return you're getting right now.
Exactly.
It's going to give you the same rate of return you're getting right now. Or, and with all due respect, I'm going to use the Jordan Center. All right? And this is not a rip on it at all, but I want to use it for this example. You can do it and do it right the first time and get a rate of return on it that has a chance to do some great things with it. So the Jordan Center is the jack of all trades and the master of none. So as a concert venue, it is no question passable. As an Olympic wrestling venue, it is passable. As a basketball venue, it is passable. As an event venue, it is passable. All right, it's passable on all those levels. So they get great use out of it. You want to hold a graduation in there, you can do that. You want to hold the women's football clinic opening day in it, you can do that. You want to hold, I guess State High just had their prom in there, you can do that. You want to have a basketball game in there, you can do that. Women's basketball game, you can do that. Wrestling, you can do that. Right? There's, you want to have Paul McCartney here in a concert, you can do that. Right? Bruce Springsteen. Right? The Eagles, they've all played in there. Right? You can do that. So it's the jack of all trades and the master of none. The frustrating part for a lot of people is that when it comes to the basketball part, again, it's a passable basketball arena, but it's not a basketball arena. All right? But it wasn't built that way. And what happened is that if it is built in such a way where it can do two things, you could put 8 wrestling mats down for the NCAAs, and actually, believe it or not, it is actually built in such a way where if you wanted to put hockey in there, you can. And I can tell everybody, like, oh, really? When the floor is out of there, right, I can see they have an outline, the outline of where the hockey rink would be. It's there. Now, the difference is I see that stuff because I'm in there all the time, or a lot. And the fans aren't. They're sitting in the stands. Well, hockey never went in there. Right? And the venue is now too small to host the NCAA wrestling championships. Because I think there's an 18,000 seat minimum now on that. So they got it once. And remember, because of all the press tables and everything else that goes with it, the seating was about 13,500 for it. They had to knock out a couple thousand seats to do the NCAAs in 1999, I believe it was.
Yeah, it was before 2000. Yep.
Yeah. So the idea is a basketball arena and getting it right the first time, they didn't because, again, they wanted to make it the jack of all trades, the master of none. So it's built longer for two things it's not going to accommodate, ever. It's never going to accommodate hockey. They built Pagula. It's not going to accommodate the NCAA Wrestling Championships. The place no longer qualifies for it. All right? And because of that judgment, right, which I understand why people did things at the time, right? I understand that. But because of that judgment, Penn State right now has a basketball arena where you go, oh, boy, okay, well, do the best we can with it. Okay. All right. So now let's transition back to Beaver Stadium. To me, you have a chance to do this thing right. Right? And you know what? There's only one way to do it right, and that is to go for it. Yeah. And I'm a big believer in it. Pagula has everything in it. Now, they were helped out by Kim and Terry's extremely generous contribution, and that has everything in it. I did a BTN game in there. And I was talking to the analyst who had played in the NHL, and he said to me, and it had been the first time he'd been in there, and he goes, I can't believe this place. He says, this place has everything. He said, there's only one NHL arena that has everything this place has, and it's Toronto. I said, really? I said, you're kidding me, right? He said, no. Okay. They thought of everything, including everything was included in there. For example, simple things. Right? Metal tin roof inside. Why? Keeps the noise in. Mm-hmm. Little thing, big thing. Right? Ice. Terry wanted to have the ice like Buffalo. Right? Right. Where it's the kind of ice that doesn't collect tons of snow. Right? And it's hard to have people understand, like, it's called fast ice. Right? What's in there? Training room, hot tub, cold tub. I mean, everything, because they had one shot to build it, and Pagula was built exactly right.
Built perfect.
Right? Because of the generosity of the contribution, they had the finances to do it. And it was done right. And when they needed a little bit more money at the end, he kicked in a little bit more money at the end to do it. Okay? The Jordan Center, again. Okay? The Jordan Center, it is passable on every level. It is a passable concert venue. It's a passable basketball venue. It's a passable wrestling venue. It's a passable event venue. Everything. It's okay? No negatives. Right? It's passable on, when it comes to you're going, okay. But could it be better for basketball? Way better. Way better. And it is not, it's, and that's where you're like, okay, well, you don't want Beaver Stadium to be that. Okay? You've got the one shot to do it right. Pagula, they had one shot to do it right, and you know what they did? They did it right. Right? Same thing with Beaver Stadium. You got one shot now to do it right, to set the tone for the next 30 years. 30 years you can do this. And I might be conservative on that.
Yeah.
But 30 years on a building that's already, okay, there are parts of Beaver Stadium. Remember this. Because of how Beaver Stadium is built, there are parts of Beaver Stadium, 30,000 seats worth, by the way, that are approximately 90 years old. Because remember, they moved 30,000 seats of old Beaver Field over. Oh. Then there are many other parts to it that are 64 years old. The concrete on the bottom. Concrete on the bottom is 46 years old. Believe it or not. It's 46 years old now. All the concrete in the bottom and the concrete in the south end zone. Okay? That's not 46 years old. South end zone is 23.
Yeah, already.
South end zone's 23. Luxury suites on the east side, 23 years old.
Yeah.
Upper deck on the north side, the cantilever deck is 33 years old.
That was 91. Yep.
Okay. So you are now at the shelf life of the building if you don't do something with it. So now how do you get something out of it? All right. So that's the next part. What makes Pagula, let's go back to that example, a fabulous facility in that it's used 350 to 360 out of 365 days a year. Skating, junior hockey, so forth. I don't care whether it's using the back rink, whatever. But they keep that thing operational. Bang, 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 all the time, right? Well, now, because when you look at the hockey numbers, a lot of that is included in the hockey. I believe, somebody can correct me on this, that's on the budget. You'll see hockey is like pretty close, men's hockey.
Yep.
Pretty close to breaking even, and quite break even last year. They fell a little short, right? But what closes the gap is what I just talked about. It's got to be included someplace. Right, and it's an athletics building. So now the Jordan Center is not an athletics building. Athletics does not run. Athletics rents the Jordan Center. They rent the office space, they rent the practice space, they rent the game space. It's like, I don't know, $26,000. Put the court down. I mean, whatever. Right, in the main gym. Okay. But Beaver Stadium is all athletics. So if you want to have meeting spaces for wedding receptions, which there are some that already occur now on in the club on the south side. There's already because I've actually been to wedding receptions there, but they want to have that ability. Hey, the Jason Lord Fam Club, right? Hey, let's have a meeting. Let's rent Beaver Stadium, and then both of the members can go.
That's right. Doubled my membership this year.
You can't keep including your family members.
That's the best thing I could do. That sold another membership or two.
Jesus,
then embezzlement got involved. I tell you, just
unbelievable. but yeah. In other words, let's pick whatever group, like the Hershey Medical Group, for example. We're going to have, we need to have a conference. We don't want to hold it down there. Hey, let's go to Beaver Stadium. Oh, okay. And that's what they want to do with it. They want to keep that part of the building where it's like, hey, where it's generating revenue week after week after week, instead of, once in a great while somebody uses it. And that's what they're looking to do. So I go back to, you got one shot, right? You can Band-Aid the place. No question. You can Band-Aid it. Or you can do it right the first time and have a lasting effect for decades. And this is what this is going to attempt to do. There's always risk.
Sure.
There always is. In anything you do. Even in something simple, there's risk. But you already were going to have to put in the neighborhood of 200 to 300 million in anyway to make it, let's go back to the word I used on the Jordan Center, passable.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Passable. Safe and passable. Okay? Or you can go big and have big thoughts, big ideas, and see how it pans out. Take the risk. The time to go big was probably, I mean, let's face it, they could have done this 6-7 years ago.
A little bit ago. Yep,
Okay.
I agree.
And I thought they were going to. I thought they were in the path to doing it. Like, okay, let's go here. Or now just do it now. Well, they're going to do it now. Now, will it wow recruits when they come in? Just based on the rendering yesterday? You're in the parking lot and you're already like, wow. Just in the parking lot looking at it. Okay? Then you get them inside and they get a chance to see, what it's like being in there, especially with a whiteout game, which is something that's special.
Very much so.
Beyond words. So on the recruiting part, yes, there's no question it's going to have an impact.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody's going to bring somebody in to look at something and go, right? And other people have done this. So I worked 84, 86, and 90 games in Bryant-Denny Stadium when it was very much like Beaver Stadium now, except fewer seats. They had maybe 70,000 seats. And in a lot of ways, it looked like Beaver Stadium. It was very,
Yeah.
Also, in 88, Penn State played at Legion Field and worked there and worked a game there. At this point, I was the third person on the network, so that's what I mean. I worked it. Well, then when I went back to the play-by-play in 2010, it was 101,000 built up all the way around, and scoreboards in the corners and the luxury suites. We were up in the suites, at that suite level on that side. Like, wow. So I saw it when it was 3 times, when it was a basic, passable on-campus stadium, where at that point, Alabama was playing the majority of its games at Legion Field. Well, now Legion Field happens to be something they pass on the bus on the way to Auburn when they play a game. They play everything on campus now. Now, obviously, what's the last time I actually physically saw the stadium? Bryant-Denny was 2018, because I was there for basketball. We were walking around campus. All right. But I saw the dramatic change in it. Texas in 1989, Texas now. I've seen the dramatic change. Right? Michigan.
I was going to say, Michigan and Ohio State, both of them.
Well, Ohio State did theirs in the early 2000s. They put, I think, $180 million in 2002, 3.
Yeah, it was early.
2002.
Yeah, the year
they put
the national title here might have been.
They put it $180 million in. And I remember sitting in the box with Jack, and I looked over. I said, "You know what?" They said they spent $180 million here. You can see it, right? And that's when they built up the south end zone to make it exponentially higher. They put a lot of work into that. Michigan built the luxury suites all the way around. There was just a basic Michigan blue press box on the State Street side, because it's built into the ground. So getting up to the press box it doesn't take long for the elevator to get there in the old box. But they rebuilt all that. They redid it. Notre Dame. As the third announcer, I worked games at Notre Dame in 84, 86, 88, 90, and 92.
Yeah.
Okay? But then I went back as the play-by-play announcer in 2006.
Yeah.
All right? Hey, that's not the 59,075. It's completely different now. And the last time I saw that same thing, 2018, the NIT, because it's across the street from the Joyce Center or the Purcell Center, whatever they want to call it these days. I think Purcell's where they play basketball, that half of it. The whole building's the Joyce Center. Right? It's a different stadium now. Now, all these people did this stuff. Now, Southern Cal I have not been back to since they put the work in there. So the last time I went there, the track was still in. The Olympic track was still in. The last time I was at USC. But they put the money into it. Now, and everybody, a lot of people did this much earlier than Penn State. The longer you wait on something, the more money it's going to cost.
Yeah.
And the idea, and I don't know what the right price tag is to go for it, but the right idea is to go for it. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know what the right number is to do it. But it is under the category, to me, you have one chance to do it right. Do it right. They pick the right group. Populace is brilliant at this. Okay? They're not good at it. They're not just good at it. They're brilliant at it. And that is the right group to go with. And they'll give it a big time look. So you can, if you have an argument on finances, it's always a great discussion to have. I have no problem with the discussion on finances. None. Those are the right questions to ask. Because it's important to get answers. What answers can you give me? I have questions. That's fine. But I'm also of the opinion, and maybe it's because everybody has a different background. And my family owned its own business.
Yeah.
Now, is it a business on this scale? Of course not. But any business on any scale brings with it risk. Right? Anybody who's in business, understands what I'm talking about here. Whenever you make a move, there's a risk.
Absolutely.
No question about it. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about, I said, how many millions have you spent on equipment with the idea it would pay off for you? He says, several million. Mm-hmm. He says, I said, did they all pay off? He says, most of them, made money and then some. He said, then there were a couple things we got that were like, whatever. He says, but you do it all over again. He says, yeah. He says, because you have to have the right entrepreneurial guts and feel for it to do something. All right? And you don't want to spend your money foolishly.
Right.
You don't want to do it in such a way where and the right question is, can you make this back? That's a legitimate question. And it sounds like they have a plan in place that puts them on the path to doing that. Now it's a question of executing it. Okay. But in terms of the building, and in terms of what they want to do, I am a big believer that if you're going to do it right. Okay? Don't Band-Aid it. Do it right. And that's what I think they've done with this. They've gone out and they've done it right. Now, that brings with it a price tag. But if you want to build let's build a brand new one. Okay, fine. Anybody got $2 billion laying around? That's the going right now. Mm-hmm. Jerry World opened in 2009 at $1.3 billion. Well, guess what? Jerry World is not worth $1.3 billion today.
No.
To build that stadium.
Nope.
Now, I'm not saying you build a Jerry World here, right? Yankee Stadium is $1.5 billion.
Yep.
$1.5 billion for Yankee Stadium. Okay, has approximately 50,000 fewer seats than Beaver Stadium. And by the way, there's no dome, nothing like that. So It's open air. I also realize it's New York real estate. but it's $1.5 billion in 2009.
Yeah, 15 years.
Right. I do not know a dollar figure as to what the Red Sox ownership, led by John Henry and Tom Werner, have done. I have no idea what the dollar figure is on what they've done to Fenway Park. Built in 1912, and believe me, there's still elements of Fenway Park that are like, okay, it feels like 1912, all right? But putting up the monster seats, right, in 2003, huge project. What they did to the family area in the grandstand, huge project. What they did to the suites up top, huge project. I have no idea how much money they sunk into it. Now, they have to still work around it. Right? And this, one of the ways they work around it? When you enter Fenway Park, right? I think in center field, you can just go through the regular gate and get in. But if you're on the first or third base side, you enter actually in on Jersey Street, right? In the fan area. You don't go to the, okay? You don't enter there because that's the best way for them to get people in and out. You don't enter at the gate at Fenway Park, right? In terms of your ticket. In other words, there's a gate, you go in. But I'm saying you don't, that's not where you scan your ticket. You scan your ticket actually in a street area. Oh, where they have Fan Fest. I mean, that's what they do, to work around a 1912 building. But I have no idea how much money they put into it. How much money would it cost to build Camden Yards today? Which is just a simply marvelous venue.
The stadium that really changed it all, in my opinion.
Right.
I think the stadium really changed everything.
Changed everything. And again, populace. I can't remember what they were before. But they were part of that. But for example, here's the other part. Pitt and Temple don't have this issue.
No, because
they're renters.
Yeah.
And Penn State's the only university in this state that has to do this. The next part is, right, Acrisure Stadium, PNC Park, Citizens Bank, and the Link. What do they all have in common? Some of the money used there was state money.
Yeah.
Now, some state money was used for Medler Field, and some state money, obviously, was, I think, 60% of it was used for the Jordan Center. Okay? But this isn't a state money project.
Yep.
And again, I am a big believer, if you're going to do it right. And to me, you've got all the equipment there. You've got all the workers there. So you got one shot, do it right now.
Yeah. It's like the cliche, risk and reward. I think that's where you look at really with what they're doing here. This is a spot where, they're hoping, as you said, the return on investment's going to come back to it. And I think they have a plan in place that's going to do everything they can to get that. And ultimately, it's, on the smaller scale, it's pretty much like a car. You could drive the same car for 295,000 miles, and over and over and over again, that car is going to cost you more and more and more. Or you just finally say, you know what, it's time.
I just went 194,000 miles and 12 years.
Yeah.
And so finally, this was the time now to do it. Yeah. So I did.
Exactly. And that's on a much smaller scale, obviously, but that's the example.
That's right.
Do you want to just keep fixing it, or do you want to just finally say, okay, let's put the investment forth, let's see what we can do with it? And obviously, and you talked about businesses, and I think there's no question, I think the most successful businesses in this world, not just here, this entire world, those that have made the most money have spent the money to get there.
Yep.
If you're hesitant, you're hesitant to spend the money, you're sitting back on it, you're going to be behind the eight ball in a lot of ways. I don't think there's any question about that. You have to take risks sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes the reward comes out and it works. Sometimes the reward doesn't work. But you never know unless you take that risk that you have to take at some point.
Yep. Now, let's very quickly on the economics part of it. We already discussed yesterday, what they want to do in terms of the plan on donations and things like that. So they've got that in place. Now the basics on revenue, pro and con. So let's get to we'll do the con part first, and then of course is the $20 million. The ACC and the Big 12 have already voted each to accept the settlement in the House versus the NCAA case. So that's where that is now. The conferences, by the way, the Power Four do not have to vote unanimously to do it. But it turns out that the Big 12 did vote unanimously, and I believe the ACC voted unanimously. The Big Ten is voting this week. All right. So the other conferences that will vote, and by the way, the Big 12 voted unanimously, but Texas and Oklahoma has abstained because they're leaving the conference. The ACC presidents voted in person in Charlotte at their meetings Tuesday night. The Big 12 presidents voted virtually. The Pac-12 will vote as a full 12-team league. They're the fifth one. So they're going to vote. The Pac-12 is actually going to vote, which is where USC and UCLA will cast their votes. Will be with the Pac-12 because they're all still current members. It's a 13-page agreement. The Big 12 presidents and chancellors were briefed on the 13 pages. And, of course, the key is the NCAA paying more than $2.7 billion in back damages over 10 years. $1.6 billion is going to be held back from schools on their NCAA distribution. And about $20 million in permissive revenue sharing that is expected to begin in the fall of 2025. This will give athletic departments the direct ability to pay the players, which is a huge shift, as we all know. So the other votes are scheduled for this week, including the Big Ten. And again, you do not need unanimous approval. You need to have a majority. So in the Big Ten, you need to have 8 vote yes. My guess is it'll be unanimous. The Big 12 is unanimous, and I believe the ACC was as well. The other votes that will take place this week will be with the Big Ten, the SEC, the Pac-12, and then the last one is going to be the NCAA Board of Governors. You can expect all this to pass. So that's where it is. So that's the $20 million. Now, the question I would have, let's start with questions you have. All right, so questions. Let's start with this question. What does that do to cost of attendance? Does that eliminate cost of attendance? So at Penn State,
Yeah.
all right, at Penn State, that eliminates about $3 to $4 million. Oh, well, now it becomes a $16 to $17 million proposition. Whatever you can make a dent, you can make a dent. If you're getting direct money out of that, why do you need cost of attendance? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Alston has already said, for example, if you need iPads, laptops, things like that, you got it. Cost of attendance is like walking around money. Okay, fine. Well, guess what? If you're getting this, why do you need that? Now, of course, you're going to have people say, no, we want as much as we can get. Okay, I got it. But that's what the $20 million, right? So that's one. All right. And then the other part is the NCAA distribution part will go down for the next 10 years. But remember, there was an increase on the other sports that was built into that. Remember, that's they did get the one increase up to $115 million total per year, including $65 million for the women's basketball tournament. And so that's the issue right there. Plus side, more money from the Big Ten TV deals. $60 million this year. Remember, the contract's backloaded. Okay, doubling or slightly more than doubling the radio contract here. Right? So these are all things that are pluses. All right. So there you go. Lots of money. I'll let you talk about The Rock here. Okay.
No, just talking quickly about obviously the renovations. I think you get back to the risk that you have with it. Obviously, it's going to be a risk, but you get set for what lies ahead. And you think about also when you add to it, the Big Ten. And there's any question about it. The revenue he's talking about with the radio deals gone up quite a bit. There's no question about that. That starts this year. TV deals, they're going to go up and up and up. As a conference, everything's going to go up and up and up, and that's why you've seen the expansion you've seen the network contracts go up into billions and billions of dollars. There's no question about it. And now you get set for we're just talking from the landscape of things for Penn State. It becomes a spot where obviously it's going to face criticism. Every decision that involves finances, no matter what it is, whether it's $10, whether it's $10 billion, is faced with criticism, and it's faced with risk, and it's always faced with scrutiny one way or another. And this is going to be all three. I don't think there's any question about that when you look at what they've done. And the question becomes, can they afford it? Can they do it? And you find out. You find out over time. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. When you make a large investment, it's not something you get back in 5 minutes. It's something you hope to get back over several years. And sometimes it works out. Other times it doesn't. We've seen it both ways in plenty of things. We've seen decisions at a high national level that have been made, that have been decisions that are great and decisions that are not so great. He jokes about The Rock. Let's make the example of 2 years ago. I'll give you an example right there, the XFL. How many times the XFL failed? They're still at it. Had to merge with the United Football League. Now you're seeing a little bit more success. But all that's just one small example to many examples that I think you're going to see. And that becomes whether or not it's successful or not, you find out. And that's, I think, the path you're going to see when it comes to this renovation. It's not happening tomorrow. You're not driving by Porter Road. You're not going to suddenly see everything you're going to see some stuff because of construction in the summer, but you're not going to see everything just shut down. It's not something that happens overnight, and it's not something you're going to get back overnight. That's the beauty part of a long-term investment. That's the part that is nervous of a long-term investment.
Sure, but guess what? Again, it depends on what your background happens to be as to what your opinion is. Background means something.
I agree.
Or at least life experience means something. If you don't have a business background or your life experience wasn't around a business,
right,
you probably have a different mindset and thought. No question. And I totally get that because, again, your opinions are shaped so often by either your life experience or what you've been around. Totally get that. I grew up with a family business where it's not anywhere near to the scale of this, but it's a scale. And I saw the investments my dad had to make, the roll of the dice. And in the end, to me, it takes guts. Takes guts. You have to have some level of foresight. And And I think that what they want to do with this shows the ability of one. We've got, this administration feels we've got one shot. Let's do it right. Number two, okay, we've got the guts to believe we can make it pay off. Which brings us to the other part. That means that's the foresight.
Sure.
Right? And that's what you have to have. Now, do things always work? No, things don't always work. But you don't know until you take the chance with it. And, they want to keep it over 100,000, which is great. I know Allie Krieger did bring up in the possibility she brought up when she talked with the board yesterday about, hey, the Women's World Cup is coming here in 2031? I believe.
I think it's around there. Yeah. Yep.
I think it's 2031 because it can't be 30 because that'd be the Men's World Cup. So 2031. Now, Beaver Stadium in 1994, and this is part of the you feel like you're the last vestige here in some ways. The FIFA did make a site survey of Beaver Stadium. They came here in 1993, maybe. The World Cup was what, 94?
Yeah,
94. In fact, it opened in Chicago the day that OJ went on the Bronco ride. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I think they came here in 92, 93. And they did a tour of Beaver Stadium because, look, it's a venue of...
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's a venue that had 100,000 seats in it. They would have to do something to the pitch where they'd have to maybe eliminate the bottom 5 to 10 rows or something like that, the way I was told. But the biggest issue they had with bringing it here was not the venue. Hotels. Oh.
Mm-hmm. That was the same with the Stadium Series.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but the stadium at that point will be 4 years past. It would certainly give a presentation of, hey, look, I mean, can you imagine the Women's World Cup being here? It was one of the sites. Incredible. Now, at that point, you hope the Autoport area is all settled, but I mean, that's when it comes to hotels. I'm over here.
There it is. Didn't follow you for some reason. Didn't follow me earlier. I think it's just trying to kick us out or something.
But I don't know what it's in 92, 93, they did a site survey of Beaver Stadium for the Men's World Cup. All right. And hotels became an issue, but they looked at it as to how they had to put the pitch in there. Because FIFA does have regulations as to length beyond the lines, width beyond the lines. They have standards. But the hotel issue came up. All right. And but Allie brought it up in the meeting yesterday, which reminded me of what happened 32 years ago, 33 years ago. Okay. Okay. Obviously, the Stadium Series, Flyers, Penguins, everybody's talked about that. Mm-hmm. Great. I mean, those are other uses of it beyond football, but also what they want to build in the building part of it is very much like what I've seen at Nebraska. Again, okay? Yeah. First time I went to Nebraska, it was like, okay. Yep. And now I go to Nebraska, it's like, okay, look at this. Hey, I've seen these places change. I've seen them change. Okay? Saw Alabama change. I mean, I saw Notre Dame change. I saw Nebraska change. I've seen Texas change. Now, they did it before Penn State. Now, I saw Texas A&M after they did it. No, I apologize. No. I'm wrong about that. I have not seen Texas A&M since they renovated it. I saw Texas A&M Kyle Field before they renovated it. My apologies. I'm anxious to see what USC looks like. Because I haven't been in there since, the last time they played was, 91. Richard McKenzie.
That was not a great day for the Nittany Lions. No. I remember that. That was a primetime game. Yep.
McKenzie played a great game now.
Yeah.
But that is what I've seen change-wise from some of the major programs in the country. And these stadiums don't look anything like the way they used to. I've been to Florida, and I saw what they did, with their luxury suites. And not their luxury suites, their club seats, which are in the end zone. But they have 2,000, and Penn State has 4,000. I've seen Michigan change. I've seen Ohio State change. I mean, you go through the long list. I mean, Northwestern is in the process of leveling its stadium. Yep. They're going to build a 35,000-seat stadium. That's the right size for them. Get this, though. So I'm at Northwestern in March. And I know they're going to tear it. I know they're going to tear it down. So I said to Dave Ennett, and I'm going to see Dave tomorrow, as a matter of fact. They had cranes out there. I said, so when are they going to implode it and just level it? He looked at me and goes, no. I said, what do you mean no? He says, neighborhood won't let them do it. I said, the neighborhood won't let them do it? I said, it's just one fell swoop.
Yeah, literally.
Okay, 22 seconds later.
By the time a bus stops at a red light and turns green,
right,
it's done.
22 seconds later, we're done. Won't let them do it. They have to literally take it out of there, brick by brick. I said, you have to be kidding me. Right? And, of course, they're going to set up as a temporary. Now, they're temporary to a point. They're playing Ohio State at Wrigley Field, by the way. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I thought they were going to split between Soldier Field and Wrigley Field. Yep. That was the original that was told to me. And then they said, and then I remember talking to Dave, and Dave told me, he says, I'm not so sure that's the total plan yet. I said, okay. He said they changed up, and that just could be a money thing. So they're going to set up temporary at their practice field. Okay. But they're doing something. Minnesota. When Minnesota built their... Okay, because when I first started doing games, it was at the Metrodome. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, when I first... Okay,
ran into plenty of problems with the two of them potentially clashing.
Right, but I'll say the Metrodome was fine.
It was fine.
But
it was just a matter of, the Twins make the playoffs, we got to do this.
Well, no. The Twins played the then Cleveland Indians, now Cleveland Guardians, in the next to last regular season game. I went to the game. I went to because Penn State was playing at night. Mm-hmm. Well, it was like a 2-block walk from the hotel. So I was with the late Patrick Scholl, my friend, and Patrick was out there. Patrick grew up in Iowa, so he was out visiting his family, and his wife went out, and he said, hey, you want to go to the game? I said, yeah, let's go to the game. So I go to the game. It's in the afternoon, right? And I know, because I already talked to some, because Penn State practiced in there. They practiced on the day before? No, that was in 2007. Six. They practiced in there the day before. That was when Anthony Morelli got banged up. They wanted to practice in there just to make sure he was okay. He was. All right. So it was 2004. And I was told, I said, what about the baseball game? They said, well, once it gets to 2 o'clock, they have to stop. We have to change the place over. I said, really? So the game started at 11 a.m. So I'm watching the Cleveland and the Twins play. Okay. Going along. And guess what happens?
Yeah.
It goes extra innings. I looked at Patrick. I said, in 30 minutes, this place is going to be... I said, they're going to explode. He says, why? He says, Patrick, they have to end the game at 2 o'clock. He says, what? He said, they have to end the game at 2 o'clock. They have to change the field over for football for tonight. I said, either Cleveland or the Twins have to score a run here. Get this thing over with, get everybody out of here. Nope. It got to 2 o'clock. And because of tonight's football game, today's game will be picked up tomorrow. And the fans were furious. And of course they're furious.
Yeah, they should have been. Yeah.
Right? So that's the way it was. Right? Now, Minnesota, again, Glenn Mason, who never got to coach a game in there, campaigned hard to get their stadium on campus. So let's now transition to that place. You know what I admire? There may be 50,000 seats, which, by the way, is the right size for them.
Yeah.
But you know what they did? Everything right. They knew they had one shot to build it, and they did it the right way. I took a tour of that place. You know, 'cause that's one thing about also going to places for basketball. You get more, like something like that happens. Hey, you want to go on a tour of the stadium? Sure. So, they weren't quite done yet. I took a tour of it, locker rooms, other facilities, internal stuff, press box, things like that. And I looked over at my friend who had worked here at one point at Penn State. And I looked over and I said, I got to give you guys credit. You thought of everything. And they did. The concourses, the way the concourse is set up in Minnesota, even as something as simple in the press box, very simple. Most press boxes now have the TV up above so you can look at replays, which is just the dumbest place to put it. I mean, really, you want to talk about dumb. You know who can see it really, really well? The engineer.
The engineer, that's about it.
Yeah, because it's his eye level. His or her eye level. Well, the engineer isn't broadcasting the game, right? Well, Minnesota has one up top. Oh, by the way, they have a monitor on the table for you, too. Okay? Take care of the little things. Big things take care of themselves. All right. We have a lot of interviews the next 3 shows because they said to me, how can we eliminate Jason's participation in the show for a few days? I said, well, how about have some interviews?
Yeah. It was unanimous, too. I couldn't believe that. Unanimous.
What bothers me is you voted for it.
I know, and I checked the wrong box. It's almost like the 2000 election. We needed a recount on it.
Even Jason voted yes. Really? He's easier to convince than we thought.
Florida 2000 all over again.
But Mark Wogenrich, we'll talk to him tomorrow about Beaver Stadium. That'll be one of the people we'll have on the show tomorrow. And then we got a couple guests tomorrow. Scott Fransky, going to have him. Neil Coulon, going to have him. Nate Bauer, going to have him. So we're going to have interviews tomorrow, Friday, and Monday. Memorial Day as well. And then back here with some chit-chat. All right. Incredible repartee, chit-chat on Tuesday.
All right.
And Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. And then Friday we have Coaches versus Cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. So you have a great and safe Memorial Day weekend, my friend.
The same, absolutely.
You're the best.
Enjoy it.
You're the best.
Likewise.
Always enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Now all the cutting stuff you said when I had to leave.
Well, I'll tell you. Yeah, it's riveting.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Interviews coming up the next 3 days. Really, Mark Wogenrich tomorrow. It's on Beaver Stadium. I think you're going to enjoy it here on 7 Mountain.